Welcome back to the Big Sister Wellness Podcast. I am Brooks.
I am Taylor.
And we're so pumped to be back, you guys. We have kind of taken a little bit of hiatus.
Wait, you're right. I miss you.
I miss you too. But not because we wanted to necessarily. We've just got a lot going on in life. That's us every episode.
I was literally about to say that. I'm like, dang, I think we say this every episode. Are we okay?
Literally everybody else probably too is like rolling their eyes like,
yeah, they're like,
so
they
are
think
we,
their
girls.
lives are so busy. I'm like, no, wait, we are really busy. I don't know why.
And y'all probably are too. So thanks for being patient. What's going on? What's new?
Oh man, we moved.
Yay!
Y'all moved?
Yep.
We're all just moving around. But I'm sad. I miss my old house.
Do you really?
It's weird though because so I lived in that old house for 11 years, and I'm like mourning that home because I raised both Jet and Navy there, and at one point it was just me and Jet. I was a single mom, and that was just our place, you know. And it's sad, like, and he misses it too. And even Navy, she's 2. She keeps saying, I want to go home. I'm like, oh no, this is our home. Oh. It's so sad, but I'm so grateful because I love this new house is beautiful. My husband worked so hard for it, and I'm so thankful. But man, I'm like mourning that home.
That's okay. 2 truths can happen.
Yeah.
I'm not to get all biblical, but I'm reading Lamentations right now, and that's a big theme is like 2 truths can be held at the same time. So yeah, girl.
And that is true.
And that is true. That's the truth, 2 of them. Oh my gosh. But yeah, moving is a big transition in life. We talk about that a ton in the office because, you know, patients will come in and talk about, oh, I'm moving, and it's exciting usually. Usually people are really excited about it, but it's a lot of stress on your body and on your brain. I mean, it really is. And from the physical standpoint and the emotional standpoint. So I'm proud of you for recognizing that. And
thanks,
this
girl.
too shall pass.
Well, what about you? What's going on?
Yeah, well, moves happening. Thankfully, I would say this past weekend was the first weekend that Wade and I really felt like, okay, this is our home in a good way, not just a forceful way. We moved, I think, at the beginning of June, so it's taken a good month, 2 months, going on 3 months. So there's time. You've got time to feel more settled in. But yeah, we were just talking off air about like projects and remodels and just little things that we're doing to try to make it more us, because our house was built, I think, in the 90s, and we love that. We kind of like a little bit more of character, but we don't love everything about it. So we're changing it up.
Yeah.
We're changing it up. Have you heard of What We Said podcast?
No.
Okay. It's kind of, I feel like we're cousins to them in a way because they're best friends. They've been best friends since childhood, I believe. And anywho, whenever JC, one of the hosts, was moving into a home, they like completely remodeled it. And the people that they bought the house from were like, I think they either when the changing of the keys was happening or after that had happened, at some point the old owners like came over to the house and was like, you know, we really hope y'all aren't going to change anything. And they're like, literally, like the house is like a construction zone behind them. They're like, so anyway, hopefully the old owners have no idea who I am and don't care.
Oh no.
Not that we're like gutting the house. We're not doing that. We're just going small project at a time, but just trying to make it more us. You know?
I get it. I totally get it. How is Rocky doing with the move?
So Rocky has been totally fine. Okay, when you said that you had been in that house for 11 years, the longest that I have lived somewhere outside of the house that I lived in when I went to A&M, which was 4 years, was my childhood home. So after all of that, like after I graduated A&M, we lived in, I guess, an apartment in Dallas for 2.5, 3-ish years. Then we lived in a rent house in Austin for 2-ish years-ish. And then when we moved here last year, we lived in a rent house for like a little less than a year. So it's been like fast. So we got Rocky when we were in the house in Austin. And so he's been through a move already when we moved down here. So he's like, whatever. Fine. And since he was a little puppy, I mean, we took him everywhere with us. So we really tried to expose him. So it's, to our knowledge, hasn't really impacted him, but just like we feel stress, I'm sure he feels maybe a little bit of stress too. But, you know, we try to decrease his stress in other ways, make sure his food's nutritious. I'm looking for a chiropractor here, so for him. So
no way, that's so cool.
Yeah. So anyway, we try to reduce his stress in other ways, but I think he's good. He's here. We should ask him. I don't
Yeah,
even know
Rocky, are you good? Like,
where's
blink
he at?
twice if you're unwell.
I have no idea where he's at,
He's
actually.
biting my ankles.
He better not be. You're going to see my mom voice come out if that's happening. Okay, I am pumped, like I said, to dive into this episode. And I know you are too. This one has been a long time coming because it's around the menstrual cycle syncing, PCOS to PMOS conversation that we've gotten arguably the most amount of DMs about or questions about. And we have even touched on individually and together in other episodes about these things and said, okay, well, that'll be for another episode. Well, this is that episode. And I mean, honestly, we're probably not even going to cover all of it because there's just too much to cover, but we're going to do our best. And we talked about this before, but we're going to really try to keep this conversational and knowledgeable always, but really just share like what's on our hearts and minds about some of these big topics and always let you guys walk away with whatever you want to take from it. But before we do that, we've got our pop culture segment, and that's going to be brought to you by Taylor today.
Let's go, baby.
Yes, she's got a story, so I'm going to let her shine. So get after it, girl. Let's hear it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, this is going to be kind of a long story. Not too long. We got to keep it under wraps. But, and I don't know if this is necessarily pop culture because it's about me.
That's fine.
I am a pop queen. This story is crazy. This is a wild story. I know I say that every time.
That's what I'm having a drink every time Taylor says crazy, insane, wild.
This story is
This
wild.
is the
Giddy up. Okay. This happened to me when I was in college.
Okay.
All right, let me set the scene. So I lived with 3 other girls in college, and each of us had a dog. We lived in a really small house. So 4 girls, 4 dogs. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. What were we doing? I don't know.
okay.
There was fur flying everywhere all the time. It was weird. Okay. So we're living in this house, and one summer, a transition, we lost a roommate. She didn't die. She just moved. She moved away. Okay. So she's gone. So now we're trying to find a new roommate. Well, let me go back real quick. The roommate that left was kind of off the wall. She was very into, like, towards the end, she got into like weird, what's that game? Oh, the Ouija board. Listen, and I was like, hey, don't play that in here. I don't like that. You're going to open up some weird ghost portal. I don't like it. We're not playing Ouija in here. I don't know. Okay, and she was like, I'm gonna do it. So one time I left, and one of the other roommates called me crying, and she's like, she's doing the Ouija game downstairs. And I was like, oh no, like now there's a portal in our house and there's ghosts that are gonna come. Okay, anyways, long story short, she leaves. Okay. So she's the one that moves away. The ghosts take her away. This is crazy though. Before she left, I was like, we're throwing this Ouija board away. I don't want this in the house. This is just bad.
So she had kind of left it?
Well, this is when she was here. I was like, throw it away.
Okay.
Like, throw it away. Then she moves. Okay. And her whole room is empty. And I'm like kind of like getting it ready because now my friend is coming to stay in her room. She's moving from Oklahoma to College Station, Texas. And I'm just making sure I'm like vacuuming the room, making sure it's all empty. I go in the closet, just kind of like, getting it ready for her. And I reach up on the shelf and I feel something, and it's the dang Ouija board. And I was like, no, I saw that this was thrown away. Maybe this is the old roommate trying to mess with us.
Sure.
What the heck? I don't know. Still don't have answers to that. Very strange. So whatever, we throw it away because I was like, oh my gosh, that's so creepy. So then my friend comes and moves in. And so again, now there's 4 girls, 4 dogs. Her stuff hasn't arrived yet.
Okay.
So like her furniture, her bed, nothing. So I was like, she was one of my best friends. I was like, hey, you can just bunk with me until your stuff gets here. Okay, y'all, she didn't bunk with me for a month, but I'm just gonna say like over like a month or 2, weird things started happening in the house. Like very strange sounds, like sounded like doors were being slammed when we weren't around them. No. The dogs were constantly losing.
The dogs know too.
The dogs were constantly losing their mind. To the point where all the girls would sleep with their doors locked, or we just stopped staying at the house because it was so creepy. And then before we started getting answers, like we joked, we're like, oh, she opened the portal, there are ghosts in here, we're all screwed. Oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? Even the dogs are like screw this,
me
I'm
outta
not
here.
staying here anymore. My dog, all the time, he would sit by the front, or sit by my door when I had it closed at night and growl at the bottom of the door. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so at this time I had a boyfriend, and I was like, I'm not staying here anymore. I'm so creeped out. I'm staying at your house.
Yep.
What is going on? All the girls were kind of like that. So one time we were downstairs. We're all watching, it's a 2-story house. We're all watching a movie downstairs, all 4 of the girls, all 4 of the dogs. And all of a sudden we hear a slam upstairs. Like it sounded like a door had slammed, and all the dogs sprint upstairs. They're all barking, screaming, and we're like, what is going on? And so we don't even go upstairs. We're like, we're not doing it. We're not going upstairs.
Rocky's sneezing right now.
That's a ghost.
I thought he was
in the
barking. No, literally, he's sneezing.
Rocky. He's like, I've heard this story before.
He's standing up, sneezing. No. What in the hay nay?
No.
Okay, here we go.
Bing bong. Bing bong. So, actually, I think one of the girls went up there. She was like, I'm going to go check it out. All the doors were open still. So we were like, what the heck slammed? It was so weird. Anyways, fast forward. Now my friend who is bunking with me, for some reason, it was just us. I think I had to stay back during a holiday. 2 of the girls went back home. I was working, so I was there. She came into town, and she went out. She wanted to go party, so she went to Northgate, which is our bar district. And so she's like, I'm going to go out. And I'm like, well, I'm going to stay home with the dogs, locked in my room. Okay, long story short, I hear her come home. Okay, so this is like maybe her 2nd or 3rd night there. I hear her come home, open the door. I hear footsteps coming up the stairs.
God, my heart's beating.
Okay, and then I hear whispering
No.
by my door. And my dog is losing his mind. He's growling, he's pawing at the door. And I say, Jen, like, what are you doing? Come inside. Like, you're freaking me out.
Yeah.
Come inside. And then everything goes quiet. And then all of a sudden I hear the footsteps running down again, and the door slams. And I was like, okay. So then I called Jen, because sometimes she would sit outside and talk to her boyfriend before coming in. And so I call her, and I hear Northgate in the background. She's partying, and it was just us. And I was like, immediately thinking, how am I going to get my dog out of this 2-story window? And then I jump out too, because I'm not going outside. There's no way. And I'm like thinking literally, how am I going to get my dog, lowering him out of this? He's like a German Shepherd mix. I was like, there's no way. Whatever, we get out, I sprint, and I'm like holding my 70-pound dog, and I'm like running through the house, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm never going back there again.
Yeah.
Well, I do go back, okay? So now this is where the story gets intense and crazy. We had pictures of our dogs up on our walls, and like they would be taken off the walls and put face down. And we're like, what is happening? We even joked like, oh, we're gonna get Ghostbusters to come in, look at our dang house, because there's something weird is going on. Okay, so this is, now it's Christmas break, and all the girls had left. It's in the morning. I had just made muffins for some reason, knowing that I was literally leaving out of town. I left the muffins on the stove, like just wrapped, ready to go. Okay, just leave them. I head home for the weekend. So I'm the last one to leave, and now I'm coming back after 3 days. I'm the first one to get back. I immediately open my door, and my dog's hair stands up, and he is growling, and I'm like, what is going on? But I walk into the kitchen, y'all, and the muffins are gone.
No.
And it's weird, there's crumbs. There's crumbs from the kitchen. And so now me and Rusty, my dog, are following the crumbs, and I'm like, you know what? Screw this. I'm so over being scared. Like, we're figuring this out.
Okay.
So I follow the crumbs, y'all. I'm like a little dang bird. From the kitchen, they go up the stairs, and they stop. They just stop. And then that's when my dog starts literally growling at the ceiling. And I was like, okay, maybe it's a raccoon. I don't know. I don't know what the heck is going on.
Okay.
But do you remember when I said doors were slamming, but all the doors were still open?
Yeah.
Y'all, I was standing under my attic. That's what was slamming. I call the cops, and the cops come in, and they're freaked out, and they're like, what do you mean you have ghosts? I'm like, can you just go up and check in my attic? Like, what do you mean? I don't think there are actual ghosts in here. Like, just go look in my attic. But just make sure. Y'all, this is insane. We had a homeless man living in our attic.
Okay. Oh my God.
You'll never want to
Rocky
be.
just came to put
Rocky's scared.
his head in my lap.
You will never be able to stay at your home ever again by yourself. You're welcome.
I shaved my legs last night, but like there's goosebumps, guys.
No, I'm like
the hair is sticking out, even though there's none there. Oh,
Crazy.
Taylor.
No.
Taylor.
They never found him though, by the way.
Well, what do you mean? So then how did they know?
Because all of his stuff was up there. He had a bed, he had all of our food, there was clothes that he was using. I guess he was like trying to send us a message like,
get out of my
we
house.
don't like these dogs. So he's like kept putting the pictures of the dogs like down. But get this. No, get
my
this.
God.
How creepy is this? Our next door neighbors were also girls. I had never met them because they had just moved in. I used to work at, or my degree was animal science, so
Okay.
I have to stay the night at the sheep and goat center to help these sheep and goat go through labor, okay? And so we're sitting there, and this girl is crying, and she's like, I'm just scared, I don't want to go home tonight. And she starts saying everything that happened. And I was like, wait, that's the exact same story that happened to me. I was like, we had a man living in our attic. I go, where do you live? She was our next door neighbor.
Okay. Yeah, that's sickening. That is, where is this at?
It was.
Can you say? Or no?
Yeah. Oh, Southern Trace. It was called Southern Trace. The street was Southern Trace.
Yeah, I know I've seen that street before.
Off of Welburn, I think. No, is it Welburn? I think it's off of Welburn or Holloman. I don't know.
I know I've seen that street,
Yes.
but you know I'm about to look it up and stay
Look
away from it.
up and stay away.
Oh, yeah. Some of our friends used to live, behind that gas station that's there now.
Yeah. And there's like a little pond in the area.
Oh, so like where? Like,
Okay, where's Southern Trace here?
Right here.
We're this second house. And then he moved over to this house. I'm guessing. I don't know. I never got
That's
it.
the episode. That's it. That's
you're
the episode.
So,
Taylor.
Is that not insane?
I don't even know, like, is anybody
Brooks
else
has no
scared?
words.
That is freaking crazy. What's so, like, there's so many creepy things about it, but, like,
Yeah,
when you
like-
think back then to everything that you were saying, it was an
Every-
actual person
Yes.
probably doing those things.
Yes. And the dogs were like, you idiots, we've been trying to tell y'all for months. Like, do you not understand us? We're barking at this, they're like barking at the ceiling. We're like, weird ghost.
So how is he getting in? Is there another entrance to the attic from the outside?
We could not figure, so then we're like, oh my God, ew, is it the landlord?
Yeah. Yeah.
I know, the poor landlord, if he ever
What
hears
did the cops say? I mean, they were just kind of like dumbfounded.
They were so freaked out. Like, he had his gun drawn and he's like, if someone comes out, I'm like, what do you mean if someone comes out? What do you want me to do about it? Like, I'm not tackling anybody. I'm gonna go outside while you handle this. And then he was like calling for backup. I'm like, okay, what's going on up there? All they did was they like camped out in front of it. The cops did. They had a car in the front and a car in the back, and they just stayed there for a week. And that was the end of that. He never came back.
And how quickly after finding out that did you move out?
Oh, we moved out immediately.
Okay.
Yeah, like that day we were like, no one's staying here.
Yeah.
We're gonna get murdered. He
Yeah.
now knows that we know.
Yeah.
And everybody knows. And ew.
Taylor.
I'm like, ew, did you see me naked? Weird.
Oh, there's lots of weirdness.
No,
Lots of weirdness. How do we move on from that? Like, where do we go from here? Anybody?
So,
Anybody?
love to hear those comments. Has this happened to you?
Yeah, share if anything similar has happened, share. It almost makes you go, not that we ever want to wish ghosts in the house, but it's like,
I wish it was a
kind of
ghost.
wish it was a ghost.
I'm telling
not
you.
a real person.
Is that not the weirdest thing you've ever heard?
That's horribly disgusting. And I think I'm ready to move on.
On to the next. Let's go.
Okay, well,
Like, how do we move on?
no, really, like, I don't know. We're just gonna have to do it.
We're just gonna do it.
You wanna
Okay.
cheers?
Yeah, let's cheers. On to the next
Here we go.
part of the. Since mine was so long, Brooks isn't gonna do a pop culture segment.
There is no following up to that. So let's move into the episode. Ready?
Let's go.
Let's do it. All right, you guys. Let's dive back in. We're going to jump into getting a good foundation of what the menstrual cycle is. There's no dumb questions around here. I'm even going to ask questions to Taylor because she has some incredible knowledge. And I'm sure she'll ask questions too. But
Oh, yeah.
if y'all have questions, let us know. But we're going to deep dive. Let's do it.
Let's go.
So, menstrual cycle, I've got all my notes here in front of me. So does Taylor. So that way we don't accidentally misspeak. And even if we do, it happens.
Whatevs. We're human.
We're humans.
And I'm just a mom.
And I'm just a girl, okay? So menstrual cycle, Okay, menstrual phase, if you will, that's whenever you are bleeding. Usually anywhere from 3 to 7-ish days is what would be considered more of a healthy cycle, but it lasts anywhere in that time frame. Usually, remember there are caveats to all of this. They can be less in some girls, they can be way more in some girls, and if it is outside of that time frame, it's usually considered abnormal, and that would be a sign or a signal that maybe something else is going on. So we've got our menstrual phase, that's number 1, right? We've got our follicular phase, that's number 2. Follicular phase is anywhere in the like 12 to 14 day-ish range. Usually ends right at ovulation, which gives us our next phase of ovulation. Ovulation is whenever you are ovulating, if that doesn't sound obvious, right? It's usually whenever estrogen is really high, and that'll trigger a hormone called luteinizing hormone to surge, and then ovulation usually happens anywhere from 24 to 48 hours after that happens. Okay, last phase in the ones that we're talking about, right, goes to luteal phase. Okay, luteal phase happens right after ovulation, right in between ovulation and your period. Okay, so right before your period. Usually in this phase, you're starting to feel like your body is winding down. Okay. It's preparing to go through the menstrual cycle to actually bleed. Okay, so those are the 4 phases.
This is when you're like irritable.
Oftentimes. PMS is pretty common during this time frame. Yeah. Luteal phase is whenever things are really slowing down. I like to think of luteal phase as being like luteal, I'm like a letter girl, so like luteal low, like things are really lowering down, and we're preparing, almost like hibernating, getting ready. Now, your earlier luteal phase, right, you can still have energy in your luteal phase. So when you're moving from ovulation into luteal phase, earlier in that luteal phase, you can still have high energy, you can still feel like ready to go, but as you get later into that luteal phase and closer to your actual period is usually when we're feeling lower and like we're settling in, PMSing, all the things.
All the emotions.
Yeah, all the emotions and everything. Okay, so any questions about that?
This all literally sounds like a different language to me, so.
Okay, let's simplify it. So menstrual phase, because that's what we want. I know I went a little bit hormonal on one of the phases, so let's just keep it really simple, right? Menstrual phase is when you bleed. That's the start of your cycle. Okay, the first day of your period is like the start of your cycle. If you're going to track your cycle, which is something that we really recommend to get to know your body more, and especially when you talk about trying to conceive and things like that, understanding your body as much as possible, this is what we're talking about. So tracking your cycle, day 1 of your period would be day 1 of your cycle. Okay, that's when you're bleeding. The next phase would be after you stop bleeding, you move into your follicular phase. Usually follicular phase, you're starting to feel like more like yourself, right? Energy levels are rising. Okay, that leads us into that 3rd phase, which is ovulation. Ovulation is that time, which I didn't mention this earlier, but it is that time specifically where most women are feeling their most alive. Okay. It's also the time of your cycle when you can get pregnant. Okay. Yes. And then after ovulation, the last phase of your cycle is considered that luteal phase. Remember we talked about luteal, low. We start to lower back into preparing for our menstrual cycle or our period. And then it all starts over again. Okay, got it. So that's where kind of the typical 28-day cycle comes from. Now, remember, if your period is not, if your period's 28 days, we've got to have a conversation. If your cycle is not exactly 28 days, that does not mean something is wrong with you, okay? And this is an important conversation for young girls to hear. So I am not a mom. Taylor, you can speak more to this, and I'd be really interested. Like some of the questions I have are like, I know Navy's really young, but like how, how will you communicate that? Or I know I have a really funny story really quick actually. When I was maybe, anywhere in, my mom would have to correct me, a young gal, a toddler age, I found her pads and I was playing with them, like ripping them off and like and my mom's like, oh my gosh, from my memory of the story, I don't know. She came in and was like, oh my gosh, what are you playing? What are you doing? And I was like, I'm playing with your butt Band-Aids. So like, I don't remember that, but like, even, it was like, obviously I had seen her using them in that area. Funny. And the fact that they were like sticky, I guess I associated that with a Band-Aid. I don't know. So anyway.
That's hilarious.
Anyway.
Your butt Band-Aid.
So we can talk about that later. But just from the sense of like, if you don't have a specific 28-day cycle, that is okay. But we do want to see a healthy length of an entire cycle. Okay, you're going to read some research says, or some websites or some apps, right, say anywhere in that kind of like 28 to 32, 28 to 35 day cycle is considered healthy. When we start getting into like 38 days plus, or we're in like the 25 day or less, okay, that's a different conversation. That would be what we would consider. We need to deep dive a little more into why that could be happening, why it's so short or why it's so long. That conversation is too nuanced. I mean, again, a lot of these things could have their whole own episode, so we want to keep this just conversational. But just know, if you're outside of kind of that 28 to 35-ish day window of your entire cycle, that's something that you probably want to speak to somebody about or get some more answers on.
And because remember, this happened to Brooks when she was on birth control, and she was able to kind of get it back into that range by just changing daily habits. Yes, absolutely. Changing daily habits. We talked about in my health story episode, reading the book Beyond the Pill, which even if you're not on the birth control pill is still an incredibly helpful book. I actually loaned one of the ones that we have at the office to a patient for her to read. It's still very, very informative on what hormonal birth control is doing, but also about the cycle itself. And there's so many other books, and we're going to try to put podcast episodes that go into more of the science of all of this, and also books and resources that we really like relating to all of the topics that we talked today in the show notes or in the caption or description. But that was a big part of my journey, was when I got off of the birth control pill. Thankfully, I was able to have a consistent cycle every month to month and a half-ish. I started leaning towards the longer end of the cycle, and that's when I decided, okay, you know what, I need to get some extra support. So I upped my adjustments. I really changed my supplement routine, working with a nutritionist who did a lot of muscle testing, and now I'm doing acupuncture. And so anyway, there's lots of things. That's so cool.
To touch on what you were saying earlier, Taylor, the boring things. It was a lot of the boring things.
The boring basics, which I will say again, are you eating, look at your lifestyle. Are you eating whole foods? Are you getting outside? Are you living a sedentary life, right? You want to be making sure that you're moving, walking, lifting heavy weights. Do not be scared to lift heavy weights. How are you managing your stress? And are you sleeping? Drinking enough water.
Amen.
The boring basics.
Any notes on the foundation that we just built?
No, I think we are good.
Okay. So I say we move into talking a little bit about cycle syncing, if you want.
Yes, I am so interested in this subject. So I know nothing about it.
Well, it is exactly what it sounds like, right? So let's break it down. So cycle, everything we just talked about, the different phases, right? The 4 different phases. But then syncing stands for, in my opinion, syncing up your lifestyle. So a lot of the boring basics that we just talked about to different phases of your cycle. So when you're on your period, ain't nobody want to go do a big old cardio workout. And if you do, that's incredible. Seriously, if you do. Cycle syncing, I've seen a lot of the discourse around it that I've seen, is a better way to say that. The discourse around it that I've seen is around people claiming that just because you're on your period, you can't do cardio. It's like, no. That's not, maybe that's what some people are saying. That's not what I'm trying to say. You know, it's really encouraging women to listen to your body. That's what it is. So a lot of the things that I'm going to walk through as far as cycle syncing goes, just recommendations, just things to think about. This isn't health advice or medical advice. This is just something to consider as a female. And again, it doesn't mean that you have to do yoga only on your period. No, if you want to do a cardio workout, you go, girl. But just know that if you don't feel like doing a cardio workout, that makes sense. This is why. Yeah, that makes sense. And you don't necessarily have to push through. And I would argue, specifically working with your nervous system, if you're trying to live in that regulated life overall, right? Because there's times where dysregulation actually can help us through seasons of life, right? Just getting us through. But if you're overall really wanting to take care of your nervous system health, I would argue that pushing through some of those higher intensity workouts in a phase of your cycle where your body is literally trying to slow you down is probably something you'd want to reconsider. So let's walk through that. So cycle syncing commonly has to do specifically with exercise recommendations, but we're going to bring in other things, right? It's not just about how you're exercising. It's also about what's on your schedule, what's not on your schedule, and all of that good stuff. So let's start with phase 1, menstrual phase, right? We already talked about it's when you're on your period, when you are bleeding. Okay, exercise ideas, walking, low cardio or low intensity is what I'm trying to say. So the opposite of HIIT, right? Anything low intensity. Swimming, like slow swimming, not competitively, like slow swimming, right? That's really, really helpful. Yoga, Pilates, mobility work. So think about these things that just feel like motion.
Yeah.
Not necessarily
Just
like
moving your body.
Yeah, not necessarily like high intensity work, okay? But also consider what is on your schedule, like I said a second ago. So when you're on your period, typically most women are feeling lower, right? Most women are feeling like we're in this low energy state. So if you're the type of person who usually looks at your calendar and it's completely full, well, maybe we try to look ahead a little bit more as you start understanding your body, understanding your phases, understanding your cycle more. We look ahead about a month at a time and we say, hey, you know what? On that week, I'm actually gonna, I'm gonna say no to coffee with my friend because I don't want to get up and go out, or I'm gonna say no to that trip that I'm being asked to go on with family, or maybe not family, but work trip, right? Or, whatever it is, or even the things you can't control. Let's say you can't control saying no on a work trip. Well, other areas of your life, really just trying to simplify that. I'll give a real life example for me is on my patient schedule, my patient load. And I've told Dr. Berkeley this, and whoever else that is in our office, that will lighten our patient load a little bit or give us more breaks in between patients to just recover a little bit, because it can be a lot, right? We're very, very physical.
So that's so smart of you. And way to forward think on that.
Well, thank you. But honestly, I have to give credit to the office that I worked at previously. Actually, the leader was a man, and he was very encouraging of that. And so that
really?
was, yeah.
No way.
Yes. So it's not just something I necessarily thought of. It was really put into practice for me, and I appreciated that. And that was something that I really wanted to bring into Hair to Drow. And so anyway, that's one example, right? Adding more breaks in your day. That is something that can really intentionally slow you down. Any comments on that or questions?
It just makes total sense, and something that as a mom I've never thought about. And I do feel that my calendar is always so full, and and just as a mom, or even just somebody who owns a business, sometimes you don't even think about, well, you do because you're aware of it, but just think ahead and be like, okay, I'm gonna have to just take it slow this week. Because it's funny, and I was going to mention this later about our workout segment, but your body does not understand. It only knows stress, right? Whether you're on your period, or you have a lot going on, or maybe you're walking into the gym, or maybe you're being chased by a bear. It doesn't understand like, oh, Taylor walked into the gym, she's going to do CrossFit today, or, oh, we're being chased by a bear. It only knows stress. And so it's pulling from that same stress pull, right? And it only works if you are taking care of your body, and you are getting enough nutrition, you're getting enough rest, and you're actually thinking about ahead of time, like, how am I going to help my body manage the stress, whether you're on your menstrual cycle or you are being chased by a bear. How am I going to help my body understand this? And so, back to the boring basics.
Absolutely. I'm looking up because I don't want to misquote something. So one of my Instagram friends, Dr. Marley Quinn, she's a chiropractor as well, but she's big on Instagram. A lot of you guys probably follow her, and she actually has a cycle syncing guide. So I would recommend checking her out. I have it. It's awesome. And I've used it in different seasons of life when I feel like I need to lock in on kind of like what's going on. But she talks a lot about specifically how, and I'm sorry, Marley, if I'm like misquoting you, but my takeaway from it is she's talking about how, especially America, the system has built day-to-day life for men, meaning like on a 24-hour cycle, which if you think back in not the good old days, oh my God. Well, maybe the good old days when we weren't working. But anyway, depending on your thoughts on that. Back in the old days, depending on if they were good or bad, men were the primary workforce, right? And so it really was set up to work for the men on a 24-hour cycle. Well, guess what? Men physiologically run on a 24-hour cycle. Women don't. So as women have entered the workforce, and we've just kind of had to like adapt to the men's system, the system. And so that was kind of created for men. So long story short, if you have the ability, looking ahead, thinking ahead to how could I slow down in not only that menstrual phase, but also that luteal phase. So the cycle preluding your actual period. And we'll kind of come back to that in a second. Cool.
Yeah, so interesting.
Cool. Okay, and now let's dive into that second phase. So we had our period. We talked about that being a slower time, right, where we're maybe doing more mobility, walking, just things that feel like you're taking care of yourself, and also maybe scheduling less on your schedule, or putting intentional breaks on your schedule. Follicular phase, phase 2. So follicular phase is in between the period and ovulation. Usually many women are feeling increased energy. We're ramping back up, almost, I imagine, like a flower kind of blooming, like we're coming out of the darker days, if you will, or the low energy. So here's where we might consider adding in more higher energy things, strength training, adding in some HIIT, running, cycling, right? Challenging workouts that are pushing you more, are usually what are going to match somebody's internal dialogue, if you will. Okay. That leads us into ovulation, which also is when we are usually feeling at our most. Even sexual drive, usually we are feeling at our most. If you think about it, when we're ovulating, that's whenever we have the ability to get pregnant. And so God designed our bodies really beautifully. And that being the time when we are usually the most sexually driven, which typically correlates with, like I said, higher energy levels and like ready to go and do our best and be our best. So again, strength workouts, sprints, like power workouts, HIIT, workouts that are challenging are usually something that I know I will lean into during that phase, especially. And so what those two phases, since they kind of go together as far as like energy levels go, what those can look like exercise wise, we just talked about. But then outside of that, what that could look like is, girl, plan that work trip, plan that speaking engagement. I tell the girls, like, don't put any breaks in my schedule. Like, I'm going today, you know, like that. It's just kind of that energy. Any questions or comments on that one?
It makes sense. Yeah. I mean, 'cause I just started tracking. So before I got pregnant with Navy, I started tracking with this app called Anito. And have you heard of it?
I've heard of it, but I haven't used it.
It's so cool. And I was using it not really knowing. I was like, oh, the app is just going to tell me what's going on. And now that I'm hearing you explain this, I'm like, oh, yeah, this all makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
But look into Anito if you're trying to get pregnant. Oh my gosh.
It's good.
It was amazing.
Cool.
Yes.
I've only used in the past Natural Cycles, which can you help me remember to bring us back to some of that? Because I really want to touch on, we got some DMs and texts and questions about birth control and couples who are maybe not trying to conceive, but they want to control pregnancy without all of the hormones or synthetic hormones, excuse me. So we'll talk about that in a second as well. That's okay. So that kind of brings us into that luteal phase, like I said. So we went period or menstrual phase, number 1, into follicular and ovulation, which is where we're higher energy, and then we're slowing back down into our luteal phase. Low phase is another way to say it. So here's where we're typically starting to get those premenstrual symptoms, our PMS experiences, right? The bloating, the irritability, the mood swings, the overall discomfort, the low energy. And so this is where we would want to start to consider some of those lower intensity workouts again. If I haven't already mentioned this, though, remember earlier in your luteal phase, you still might be carrying some of that ovulatory energy. So keep doing it, keep doing what feels good to you, whether that's that high intensity or low. But just know that if you very quickly start to feel like, oh, that isn't serving me, that you can switch into more of the lower intensity workouts. Cool?
That makes sense.
Cool. All right. Any questions, comments, concerns there?
I've never in my life cycle synced my workouts. No wonder I'm just always dragging.
Well, does this interest you? Like, what are your thoughts around it? Are you like, oh, I want to do that? Or are you like, oh, that sounds like too much work?
Honestly, I think I have such a competitive mindset that whenever I see somebody else doing a workout, like say it's a class.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no, I can do it. Even though I feel like crap, I'm going to push my body, which is like the worst thing you can do. Oh my gosh. And I think that's my problem.
To a certain degree. I mean, I was talking to some patients who were in the exercise world here, and we talked about cycle syncing specifically for her. And we did touch on, though, there is a huge benefit to pushing through things, right? Mentally, that mental toughness. And I think there's space for listening to your body. So there's a balance there.
Like to me, I'm like, I can't do yoga. I can't do yoga. I can't just sit there. If I'm going to work out, like I have to work out. And I'm not saying yoga or Pilates is not a workout, because trust me, I've done Pilates and oh my gosh. So yeah, I'm not dissing your workout. But for me, it's just like, I can't. It's so boring for me. It's just, I'm not, and I'm probably doing it wrong. Y'all are going to attack me in the comments, I know. But like, it's just not for me.
So I'm going to push you because I love you.
Okay.
I would try to gamify it. If you're really competitive, I would try to gamify it. So that could be, you go to a yoga class and maybe there's a move specifically that's like really hard, right? And so your focus now in yoga is not just doing yoga, right? It's like, I'm going to get better at that movement. Or you gamify it to where you have a little chart or something, you know, tracking on your phone, like what your workouts are. Okay, I'm going to gamify this. I need to be hitting at least 2 yoga classes a month, right? And it's like, it's going to be success if I can hit 2 yoga classes a month. So just because you can't do it, if you say you can't do it.
You're right.
I'm gonna push her for a second. She's gonna push me here.
I'm gonna be a yogi.
Just wait. Oh my gosh. Yeah, literally next month. You're like in like all the
like
yoga
doing
pants,
down dog.
all the Lululemon. Yeah, that's why we can't do yoga. It's Lululemon.
It's literally all Lulu.
Even though it's so cute. Okay, it really is. No, I love that you say that, because I think that that's what a lot of women feel, is that, or the opposite, right? A lot of women feel the opposite of like, I can only do yoga and I can't strength train. What do you have to say to that? What would you say to them? Because I can almost guarantee you what you're going to say to them is what I want you to tell yourself about yoga.
We're going to get more into this later in the episode, but there's so many benefits to strength training. And you can say this about yoga.
Listen to yourself.
Listen, strength training specifically, y'all, your muscle, the bigger your muscle gets, the more it's just soaking up glucose, and
keep going.
We don't want glucose in your bloodstream. Okay? All right.
Not for long periods of time.
Not for long periods of time. We're going to talk about insulin resistance in a second.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else to add as far as cycle syncing goes before we jump into?
We want big muscles, baby.
Yeah.
I mean, not like crazy big muscles, but
I want your muscles, girl. I'm trying to be like Taylor.
I'm trying to be like you.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I do yoga sometimes, so.
No, I'm dead. Y'all, earlier I turned the camera on to start recording, and it literally was just focused on Brooke's face. And it said, like, it was like filming a baby, and I was like, what?
Infant.
It said infant on, and I was like, okay. She's like, it's because they look so young. I'm like, I'm done.
I'm giving in.
But she does. She looks like an infant. So that's Benjamin Button over here.
That's amazing. All right, now we are going to get into the PCOS turned PMOS conversation. And right before we do, Taylor's going to lead us in a lot of this, but right before we do, just want to touch on the difference between PMOS and endometriosis, because a lot of times those things are talked about in the same realm, and for good reason. They're very similar, but easy simplification way to think about it is PMOS is more directly linked to metabolic disorders, which we're going to talk about here in a second, but it's actually labeled as problems with like the specific hormones, with your metabolism and ovulation, whereas endometriosis is referencing more so abnormal tissue growth, specifically uterine tissue growth that grows outside of the uterus. And it's associated a lot of times more so with high amounts of inflammation and pain. Again, not that you can't experience one of those things with the other, they're very closely tied. And so a lot of the things that we talk about with the PCOS, PMOS conversation can be applied to the endometriosis conversation too. So keep that in mind.
I don't know a lot about endometriosis. I should. I want to deep dive into that, because not right now, but my sister struggles with endometriosis, and y'all, oh my gosh, she has to go to the hospital multiple times a year for it. So anyways, all right, well, let's get into PCOS turned PMOS, all the fun things. So this year, PCOS, which was polycystic ovarian syndrome, got its name changed in May of this year to polyendocrine metabolic ovarian syndrome.
Yes.
And I want to kind of dissect the wording on both of those. So PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, basically says, hey, you've got cyst on your ovaries. Even though all these women that were diagnosed with PCOS were saying, I don't even have a cyst on my ovary. I'm feeling it in other places. So fast forward, it was now published in the Lancet of this year after 22,000 women were screaming at the top of their lungs, hey, I'm feeling this all over my body. It was changed to polyendocrine metabolic ovarian syndrome. And when we
Yes.
break that down and look at it, we are now seeing the endocrine system and metabolic. So now we're looking at the real drivers of
Yeah.
what PMOS is,
Yeah.
which is hormonal dysregulation, insulin resistance, and metabolic dysfunction.
Exactly.
It's huge.
Boom. You
So
know
it's
what?
whole body.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I was going to say. Basically, it's science acknowledging that the body's connected and it's more than just one thing. So often, and I've said this before, and this is talked about a lot within the chiropractic profession, but a diagnosis is just a what. It usually just describes a what. It doesn't often lean into the why. So when I have patients sitting across and they're like, oh, I have this diagnosis, this diagnosis, this diagnosis, this diagnosis, it's like, okay, I'm glad that we know those things. Don't want to deny that because that can lead us to more answers and lead us to the why. But if we only stop at the diagnosis, that didn't tell us a whole lot. Like, I could have told you that, girl,
Right.
you know? So let's dive deeper. And I think that this name change is a great shift into more of the why. It doesn't just include the what, the ovarian cystic part. It also includes more of the metabolic and endocrine disruptive part.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And like I said, so these women were sitting here saying, okay, I have PCOS. Y'all are telling me that it's just because I have ovary or cyst on my ovaries. And they're saying, no, look, I have inflammation. I'm struggling with fertility in some cases.
Skin issues. Yeah.
Maybe your hair is growing in places that you don't want it to be. You're struggling with your weight.
Yes.
And so again,
Yes.
it's full body. And this is, I just want you to deep dive with me real quick on this. The problem with this is that the main driver here is insulin resistance, right? And so when we're talking about this, back in the 30s, when this was first being studied by 2 doctors, the women that they were studying that had PCOS, almost all of them had high levels of insulin in their body. Was that taken into consideration? No.
Wow.
Fast forward to the 80s and 90s now when Big Pharma steps in. Really cute. So Big Pharma now steps in and they're saying, oh, wait, we're going to take PCOS and we're going to run with it. So now think about it. These women who have PMOS now have high levels of insulin in their body. So they are insulin resistant, and we'll get into what that means. That's not being taken into consideration. And so they're saying, oh, you have fertility problems, here is Clomid.
Right.
You have blood sugar level problems, here's metformin. Problems with your period, get on birth control. So again, we're putting Band-Aids over the problem when the real driver here is insulin resistance. And if we do not address insulin resistance, it will lead to so much more down the road, okay? And just like we said before in another episode, a healed woman in this case is not profitable to Big Pharma, right? So they're not touching your insulin resistance. Meanwhile, you're on all this other medication as a Band-Aid and your insulin's going crazy. And now after years of your insulin going through the roof, you're gonna now start experiencing maybe diabetes, cancer, hypertension, blindness, obesity, the list goes on. And now you're back on that revolving door getting more medication for all these new things that insulin resistance could have been handled in the first place.
Period. Like, literally, I have nothing else to say. I mean, I'm gonna figure out something to say, but like, that is it right there.
It's honestly, it's crazy.
Yeah. Can we talk about, let's name insulin resistance. Let's talk about what that is.
Yeah, okay. So in order to name insulin resistance, let's talk about like what insulin is first. So as a diabetic, I kind of like nerded out on this, and I have a good analogy for it. So insulin is made in your pancreas, okay? And I want you to think of insulin as a key to a door, okay? So whenever you eat food, your food is broken down into glucose or sugar, and it enters your bloodstream. When it's in your bloodstream, it needs to go into your cells as fuel to give energy to your brain, your organs, your body, okay? And it's insulin's job to kind of go up to those cells, knock on the door and say, hey, I have some fuel for you, open up and take it. And in a normal body, that's exactly what it does. So the cells open, it brings your sugar level back down and you are stable. If you are insulin resistant though, that knock at the door isn't answered. So the cell's like, I'll answer it later. So the pancreas is now like, oh, well, they didn't hear me. I'm going to go ahead and send some more insulin. So now instead of one person knocking at the door, there's 5 people knocking at the door. And eventually it opens and it gets into the cell and it gives its energy. But it took way more insulin to get there. So it's not the pancreas and it's not the insulin's fault, because that's still coming, right? It's the fact that the cell isn't responding correctly to the insulin.
Right.
That is insulin resistance.
Right. So, and there's so many reasons why that happens, right? We just talked about insulin resistance is kind of the what, but the why, the deeper part about that, there's so many reasons. Genetics plays a role. Bigger than that, epigenetics plays a role, which is that lifestyle choices now and what turns on the genes that you've been given and what turns off the genes that you've been given, right? There's traumas, toxins, things we can control, things we can't control that all really stimulate everything that Taylor just said in that insulin resistance process. And so, you know, more specifically, when somebody is diagnosed with PCOS or PMOS now, or endometriosis, right? Taylor did such a great job of describing why not a lot of people are even going down the conversation of how insulin resistance can play a role. Now they are, because of the conversation, or excuse me, the name change. Praise the Lord. But let's talk a little bit about, you know, what are things that we can do to help with insulin resistance? And we don't have to name them all, but just what are a couple of things, especially with your experience? Like what are things that have been helpful?
Okay, so if someone is insulin resistant, and this isn't a diabetic. So a diabetic, their body is not making insulin, right? So sorry, a type 1 diabetic, your body is not making insulin. Maybe you're pre-diabetic, this is type 2s. You are insulin resistant right now, and that's your body whispering before it starts to scream. You want to get that in check before you get diabetes, right? The good thing is that this can be reversed.
Yes.
So let's talk about like what it looks like if you are insulin resistant. It can look a lot like the PCOS symptoms that we were saying. Maybe it's you have trouble gaining muscle, or losing weight, specifically in the belly region. Maybe you are really tired after a high carb meal, or maybe you are still really, really hungry even though you just ate, or just kind of have like those swings, right? Like the fatigue. Always dropping. That's just kind of, I guess, the physical. But another way to go, if you want to kind of dive deeper into your health, is, we've talked about this before, getting a continuous glucose monitor and really checking your insulin sensitivity. You're checking your blood glucose levels with food, with sleep, with hormonal changes.
With stress. Because Taylor, you said earlier, and it's completely accurate, that the insulin and glucose process that we were chatting about, the normal process at least, is released and happening when we eat. That is completely accurate. It's also released when we're stressed, right? When the body needs fuel, you're going to get more insulin in the normal body. And Taylor already talked about too in type 1, right? How that's different. Okay, different conversation. Type 2 though, in this insulin resistance conversation, that's more so what we're talking about when we talk about PMOS. So hopefully that's really clear on that. But CGM, huge fan of it.
CGMs are huge. Go get blood work done. Ask your doctor to check your A1C and your fasting blood glucose levels. Oh my gosh, this will tell you so much.
So your fasting blood glucose, and also we'll put this book, but if you haven't read Good Energy by Dr. Casey Means,
oh my gosh,
go read that book. That will also help open your eyes to a lot of what we're saying right now. If you're like type 1, type 2, insulin resistance, A1C, like that will open your eyes even more on what we're talking about. That's just such a good book. I need to reread it. It's so good.
I love that book.
But she talks a lot about specific markers, like lab markers, that your typical PCP isn't going to include. Or typical like lab work isn't going to include. Fasting glucose, I think, is sometimes one of those things that's not included. So sometimes you have to ask for that, and that is really helpful information to understand. Read the book as to why and all the things. But fasting glucose and your A1C is super important to understand.
It really is. It's really eye-opening. Even just wearing a CGM for 3 days.
Yes.
I saw somebody at my gym today.
Did you?
Wearing a CGM, and I don't know if it was a guy or a girl, like I couldn't, it was just the phone. I saw that their phone was up, and it was showing their blood glucose level as they were working out, and I was like, oh, you're getting up there.
Yeah.
You might be a diabetic.
Yeah.
Which is so interesting, but what if they're not? And they're like, oh crap, I am insulin resistant.
Yeah. And so just like Taylor said, you can wear it for a day, 3 days. Like that's, any information is good information. For females, I always recommend that you guys wear it for a month because it will change with your cycle.
It's
That's
wild.
another thing about lab work I was just talking to a patient about is, if your doctor, especially if you're in the preconception phase, you're trying to have a baby, right? You're working with a fertility specialist, which usually your fertility specialists are doing this, but God forbid they're not. Making sure that you're getting lab work done at different points in your cycle. If they're only getting lab work done at one point in time and then basing their recommendation and treatment options off of that one point in time, you're missing so much more information. You're missing literally the entire story of your cycle. Your cycle is a story. And so you want to understand that month to month. Ideally, month to month, the story is relatively the same. And it's relatively the same amount of chapters and all the things, right? But like if you're only looking at lab work during one phase of your cycle, you're literally only reading one chapter of the book. So you have to understand more. And sometimes, unfortunately, that takes us advocating for that. But here we are helping you advocate for yourself in that regard.
That's such a good point. One other thing that really helps with insulin resistant patients, y'all, I'm going to say it once. I've said it once, I'll say it again, is strength training.
Yeah.
This is so big. Basically, a really small deep dive into it is you're creating tiny amounts of tears in your muscle when you're strength training, right? Which causes your muscles to repair and they start to grow. The bigger your muscle is, basically a sponge for glucose. Okay, so the bigger the muscle, the easier it is to grab that glucose out of the bloodstream, and the muscle is literally helping your body. Y'all, it's crazy. Whenever I'm working out, whenever I'm lifting heavy, I'm watching my sugar levels and they're just dropping. I'm not even on insulin, nothing, they just drop, which is, you said it before, God designed our bodies so beautifully. How crazy is that?
It's crazy.
It's crazy. It's so cool. It's literally being like, oh, my muscles are growing, and it's like, oh, give me that glucose. It doesn't need to be in the bloodstream. I'm just going to soak it up because it does not belong there.
Yeah.
How wild is that? Whereas if you're doing a HIIT workouts aren't bad for you. Don't get me wrong, but again, your body doesn't understand the stress that you're putting it under, so it doesn't know that you're walking into the gym and doing burpees, and it literally thinks like, oh crap, I've got what's going on. And so it's just dumping a lot of fuel into your bloodstream, aka glucose, too much, because it would rather give you too much than not enough. It's really just trying to protect you.
Yes. Always. That's where the phrase survival mode comes from. Your body is always
just
trying to help you survive.
Yeah.
It's always trying to help you survive. The problem is you don't want to be in survival mode for a long period of time. And if, I've said this in a previous episode, I can't remember exactly how I phrased it, but think about every, and Good Energy does such a good job of talking about this process. It's why it's called Good Energy, because every process in your body is energy. And if your body is essentially wasting energy and glucose and insulin dumps when it doesn't need to be, that is completely tanking and pulling out of your overall energy bank for feeling your best and functioning your best. So it's one of the reasons, bringing it like full circle back to why it, in our opinion, is helpful to think, especially as a female, to think about cycle syncing, or at least just you can even throw that phrase out, just at least trying to understand your body and be more in tune with it, is so that you can work with it the way it was designed to work and not waste energy and pull from your overall health bank.
Yes, because, and
again, yes.
I know.
Yes.
And whenever you say the recovery thing, exercise is the spark, and recovery is where the change actually happens.
That is so good.
Yes.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, so exercise, you're just starting it. It's the spark. And then literally recovery is where your muscles grow. Recovery is where you'll start to get that leanness. only though if you are taking care of your body, right?
Yeah.
If you're providing enough protein, if you're providing enough hydration and rest, that is where we're going to see the change and
Yeah.
see the dial move.
And if you're, I would assume maybe a busy mom's watching this, right? Or even like guys do this a lot. No offense, but kind of offense. Like, you know, oh, that sounds like a full-time job. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. And if you don't invest in your health now, you will later. And you'll pay way more for it.
Way more.
And like, you always say this. I'm kind of intimidated to say it, but you always say like, what's the other option? Death or like dying? You know, like if you don't take care of yourself now, you're going to pay for it later.
Death.
And so,
RIP.
or suffering in
Yes.
life, right? Death, earth side. So,
Ooh, yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So like,
Zombies.
yeah, ghosts. Oh my gosh, homeless people living in our, oh my gosh, I can't go back to that. Okay.
No, say the analogy though of the bank account.
Yeah. Oh my
Bing
God.
bong.
Hope I didn't just break that chair.
my God.
I did it again. Okay. The what? I can't even. Oh, the health bank. Okay, so the health bank analogy is really just like you have a bank account for your money, you can have a bank account for your health, and you want to be depositing more than you're withdrawing. So the energy conversation or the stress conversation, long term, or disease, right? Toxins, right? Those are all like withdrawing from our bank account of health, and eventually you're gonna run out.
Yeah.
Or get into the negative. And so you want to avoid both of those. So you want to deposit as much as you can, just like in your real life bank account. So on a rainy day, it does not completely drain you or tank you. You have room to pull from that and then can continue building on it from there.
Yes.
That's what investing in your health is. Period. Okay. Are we ready to move into birth control?
Yes.
Okay,
let's
good.
do it.
Let's-
Yeah, the Band-Aid that we were talking that Big Pharma loves. Big Pharma loves a big farmer. Big farmers love birth control.
Support Big Farm, not Big Pharma. Okay? Support big farmers.
Big farmers just popping birth control like.
I'm scared.
Oh,
I'm
no.
scared. Well, speaking of birth control, and if you watch my health story, I was a pretty little victim to this one. But honestly, kind of grateful for it because it taught me so much and it allows me to stand, you know, stand on business talking about it because I have like specific experience with it. But also, we had somebody reach out about this
Yes.
and ask, and I do want to read a little bit of what this person was saying. And just kind of the overall theme, right? Wanting our opinion on specifically birth control, and they're about to get married, have been on the pill before, specifically because of period symptoms, not necessarily being sexually active, which that was literally my story too. And then as she is approaching marriage, they are wanting to wait a little bit before having a baby, but not necessarily she's not wanting to stay on the pill and stay on the chemical change that the hormonal birth control pill does. And so basically just asking our opinion on what is tracking your cycle, what about IUDs, right? You hear a lot of times a copper IUD because there's different IUDs. There's hormonal, there's copper. Copper IUD is better. I can tell you in my experience clinically, better is
That
a
freaks
strong
me out.
word. Better is a strong word. Yes, it could be better in certain areas as far as if it is releasing synthetic hormones, because it's not. But it's still
No.
a foreign object in your body.
Can I do
so-
the thumbs down again?
That's funny. Anyway, it just depends. What I'm trying to say is it depends on what your definition of better is. So maybe it is better for you, right? If that's your definition of it. But long story short, just asking our opinions on that. So Taylor said that hormonal birth control specifically has been a Band-Aid for a long time. We could get into what you might consider pros of hormonal birth control and what it has done for our population. Yeah, I'm also
Yikes,
shaking my
Arama.
head.
Yeah.
But there's maybe a conversation around that, trying to be gentle here. But when we're speaking at it pretty objectively, or at least in our opinion, around health, right? If we're wanting to have these truly natural cycles, not just talking about the app, but like natural cycles in each phase, like we were talking about, We want to first understand our cycle. We already talked about that. So go to the beginning if you just skip to this part. And if we're talking about the hormonal birth control, so there's the pill, which a lot of us are familiar with. There's the insertion into the arm. There is an IUD, an intrauterine device, which sits actually in the uterus. And there's a hormonal one, which is like pushing out synthetic hormones. There's also a copper one, which is not pushing out synthetic hormones, but again, it's still a foreign object in the body.
Oh my gosh.
And also, oh my gosh, I'm trying to figure out how in depth I want to get on all of this. I would just encourage, let's keep it simple. I would encourage, do all of your own research on the main differences of those, because literally this, what I'm looking at, could be an entire episode. So this is a conversation, not medical advice. Do your own research, but weigh the pros and the cons of each. And really what I want to move into is what you can do that's more natural. I think that's where y'all will get the most benefit out of this conversation, which is tracking your cycle. It's also called natural family planning, or NFP, if I am saying that right.
Natural.
Is that? Natural family planning. Full transparency, like that's what we do. And we, as in me and my husband, you can speak on what y'all do if you want, but natural family planning, it's really understanding our cycle, my cycle, and I really encourage, get the men involved in that too.
Yeah.
Okay, they don't have to be absolute experts in each phase of your cycle. Really cool if they are, but get them involved too. That's really supportive, so that way all of the onus doesn't fall on you to have to keep up with, or even just feel the pressure of being able to talk through like what phase you're in and helping him understand that. Like that has been really, really cool. And so anyway, am I even answering the question? I don't know. I
don't remember what the question was, but I like what
just
you're
kind
saying.
of our opinion.
Yeah.
Just kind of our opinion. It was more so like, what's your opinion on that? So that's why I'm just kind of going all over the place. I think the main point that I'm trying to make here, without completely talking y'all's ear off, because you can tell I'm passionate about it. I'm just trying to rein myself in. Like, my main point is I just want girls to know that you don't have to get on hormonal birth control. Like, you can track your cycle. Okay, reading here. The typical effectiveness of a pill, hormonal birth control pill, is about 93%. Okay, 93% effectiveness at preventing pregnancy. IUDs have a higher percentage, but they're not 100, 99%, it's not 100. So even these synthetic options, they're not 100% guarantee. So that's one of the conversations you'll hear about natural family planning is, oh, well, like that's a huge risk. It's like, okay, well, so is taking the pill, and also like it's a huge risk because of all the side effects. So like pick your poison, brother.
Yes.
Like really. And so there's a lot of really good books. Again, I'll link it in the description. Like there's a big book that I have at the office, all about natural family planning and your cycle and understanding that and tracking it and all the things. So I'm going to get off my soapbox and leave you with, you can do it in a natural way. I might cut this out, I might not, depending on Wade's comfort level. I've been married for 5 going on 6 years. We have never gotten pregnant because we have not started trying, and I've never been on a synthetic hormone.
Yeah.
So I just say all that to say, like, if anything, if that's encouraging, like it's possible. And I'm going to end there.
Y'all, it's so funny because before we started trying to have kids, I would think that I was pregnant. Y'all, it is a small window. Like she was talking about, your different phases. It is a small window of when you can get pregnant.
Yeah.
Typically, right? There's always those off chances.
Yeah.
But it's
just like there is.
It is actually, it's so hard. It's so hard to get pregnant. And it's just funny. She's like, oh my God, I'm pregnant. Wait, I'm totally pregnant. I'm like, no. If I knew now.
You would have done.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. But, I'm gonna say it.
Just say it. We can cut it out if we need to. We've like never cut anything out before, so I don't know why we always say that.
Well, the pull-out method is...
It's a thing. Condoms, like
condoms. That's where get the guy involved. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, Dad, turn this off.
I know.
Dad, don't listen to this episode. Mom too.
But we could.
It's a real thing. Okay,
we're your big sisters. We're allowed to say that.
And okay, that is literally the whole freaking point. Is like, who's gonna tell you? Like, because I can guarantee you, almost, that your medical doctor isn't. So they didn't tell me. They put me on this stuff. So like, yeah, who's going to tell you is the whole point of this. And if not us, then who is the whole point.
Well, it's also like a scare tactic. I was so scared to kiss a boy
Oh,
because
yeah.
I was like, I'm getting pregnant.
Yeah.
Have you seen, what was that movie Now and Then? Did you ever see that?
No.
She's like, I don't want to kiss someone. I don't want a baby.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Literally me.
that was me.
Oh my gosh, but I saw like kind of what you were saying, like what you know now it's so much harder.
Yeah.
And I saw this girl post something about that where it was like, wasn't sexually active for so many years, like thought that if I kissed a boy, I would get pregnant, and then now I'm married and like it's been 3 years kind of
It's
thing. Like
so hard.
walking through their fertility journey and just like figuring all of that out. And it's like, man, what I would have, what I could have done. Not that you would change decisions.
Right. Not
but
like you're
just,
having sex 24/7. You're like, man, what have I done that differently?
That is not what we're saying. But just kind of the mindset around like the fear around,
No, for sure.
yeah, and the shame, around that. It
Yes.
just, I don't know. Yeah, don't hear what we're not saying, okay? Anyway, long story short, it can be done in a natural way. And nothing is 100% effective.
No.
So keep that in mind. Weigh your pros and cons. Get the guy involved in it. Have these deep conversations. Pray about it. What does Kris Jenner say? Like if somebody says no, you're talking to the wrong person. Like get second opinions. Like get multiple opinions. And like always, like we always would encourage you guys, listen to your body, because if this person, I'm like so proud of her for asking those questions.
Yeah.
I want to be like, you're going to be such a good mom because like
Yes.
you're already trying to lean into like intuition. And if we just completely shut that off, even in the preconception phase, that's what the patterns are going to be moving forward for pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. So like, let's start getting in tune with our bodies.
Yeah. Let's do it, girl.
Let's do it. All right, you guys. Hopefully that PMOS, PCOS, menstrual cycle, insulin resistance, birth control conversation was everything that you wanted. Because I know for sure I just went on some rambles and got lost. And so I hope that y'all didn't get too lost.
No, that was good. That was great information.
It was fun. Good conversation.
I feel smarter. I'm just a mom learning things.
Well, comment below. You already know what we're going to ask, please. And we will see you guys next time. Thanks so much for all of the DMs and comments already, and keep them coming.
Yeah. Just like she said, keep them coming. Also, I want to hear about what y'all think about the ghost living in my attic. Okay, we'll see y'all next week.
Bye.
Bye.